I sometimes wonder whether or not it's worth talking about David Cameron. I suppose it is. David Cameron, the erstwhile boy from Brasenose, the boy from Eton who narrowly avoided being sacked, expelled. And as he says, we're all entitled to our youth. We're all entitled to the errors of the past. We're all entitled to history. But what about his history? Because he is surely the failed Prime Minister who ushered in Brexit, something he didn't want. And surely that is the archetypal definition of failure in politics, to be responsible for something that you earnestly opposed. So he has failed, but he was in his sort of louche, laid back, lordly way. The final epithet, of course, is now entirely appropriate. Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton. It's like a joke, really. But what was it? The thing that the people in Dune say just before they fight each other at the end, chipping sword or something. Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton, and he's made a comeback as Foreign Secretary. Of course, we know that. And as Foreign Secretary, he gets meetings because he affects to be an elder statesman, and as I say, he gets the meetings. He doesn't necessarily get listened to, as Israel demonstrated only a week ago, that it's clear that Prime Minister Netanyahu will do whatever he wants to do, whether Cameron tells him or not. Why? Because he is following on the heels of a series of foreign secretaries who have been beneath contempt. Liz Truss, who tried to play chicken with Sergei Lavrov. Boris, I was giving him a Russian pronunciation. Boris Johnson, the man who did so well with Iranian diplomacy, and Raab, the man who was sunning himself, lathering on factor 10 when he should have been sorting out the retreat from Afghanistan, the retreat from Kabul, and the lingering Afghans who he now expects to make their way to the UK by small boat to be rejected and held in limbo in hotels. This is the man who represented us abroad. Raab, Truss, and Johnson. And now Cameron. Well, Cameron is certainly better than any of those, but he's not much better. And he's now, I don't suppose Cameron is intent on recalibrating the role of Foreign Secretary, but he's certainly intent on providing his own legacy, on redeeming himself, so that he's no longer thought of as simply that Prime Minister who failed. If there's a media personality who's intent on pushing the issue, there's probably a Greensill Capital scandal awaiting that might even eclipse a scandal that dogs and Angela Rayner. Maybe, but maybe dogging isn't possible when it comes to David Cameron. The only decent thing, really, David Cameron is the only decent thing that Rishi Sunak has managed to do. The only dramatic thing, frankly, that Rishi Sunak has managed to do. Everything else was done for him. Everything else, he was setting in motion what had already been put there. The Rwanda scheme was Boris Johnson's scheme. Priti Patel's scheme. Suella Braverman's scheme. It wasn't his. In fact, he'd opposed it. And when Michael Gove, the levelling up hasn't been achieved. In fact, today he announced that he cannot cope, that he can't do it. Gordon Brown set about, he failed as well, of course. Gordon Brown set about creating a government of all talents. It's an important ambition, and it's a good ambition. Rishi Sunak seems to have set about to assemble a government of past hopes, or maybe a government past hope. Maybe a government entirely controlled by the nitpicking of Simon Case. After he's finished skewering Prince Harry, maybe he's out to skewer Rishi Sunak in some way or other. Maybe Rishi Sunak will be pinned to a board like some staggering, dying flea. Or butterfly. Flea, I think, is probably a better image. Stapled to a board by the ambition of others. And it was Boris who brought Simon Case back in after his sojourn for Prince William. But we have a fading government, and nothing encapsulates that more than the arrogance and brilliance of David Cameron. Whether you like him, whether you loathe him, David Cameron has charm and confidence that is the one thing lacking in almost every other politician across the House of Commons. And yet, is it worth it? Is it worth it to have that confidence to be able to stand in the House of Lords and swagger in response to Foreign Secretary's questions? I mean, it's very captivating, it's very impressive to watch, as he was very impressive to watch when he was Prime Minister. But let's not forget, this is a failed Prime Minister. This is a past hope that proved to be pincered, that proved to be squashed on the bedrock of Boris Johnson's ambition and Brexit. And yet he's the best that Rishi Sunak can offer. That, I hope, tells us something, and that is something we should learn from. He is the best that can be offered. I mean, who else would be Foreign Secretary? I believe William Hague turned him down, and I think Nadine Dorries really isn't up to the job.